It is 2 o'clock, so.
Long time no see, Jeff.
Hey, ready? Fun stuff. All right, it is 2 o'clock. I will ask for a roll call here. Delvo is excused. Schuler is excused. Scannell.
Present.
Dean. Here. Hinkfus.
Yes.
Parma.
Here.
Ganther is not here. Jessica's not here. And Jeff Merkins is here with us. Welcome, Jeff.
Hello.
We'd ask for, since we have both our chair and vice chair meeting, if you guys could, we would ask for a motion to identify a temporary chairperson for tonight.
I make a motion that Kathy Hinkfus chair this meeting.
I second.
Excellent. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we have the approval of the agenda for the September 27th.
So move. Oh, second.
Okay, moving on to regular business. Consideration with possible action on
Vote.
grant.
Take the vote.
Oh, we have to vote. Yep, we actually have to vote on the accepting the agenda, right?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consideration with possible action on a grant agreement related to job creation for a project in the rail yard district.
Staff is recommending that we go into closed session on this one, so I will go ahead and read the language here. The authority may convene into closed session pursuant to sections 1985, parent 1, parent E, with stats for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority will thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85, parent 2, with stats to take action on several items discussed in closed session if appropriate, to consider the remainder of the agenda. With that, staff would recommend a motion to go into closed
Motion to
session.
go in closed session.
We have a motion by
Randy.
and Debbie seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, one second
Closed session.
while we hold our, so now we have to turn it off.
So,
Give us just a second, Kathy.
We're back on.
We're backing on? Okay, we are back in open session. Thank you.
that was a great discussion.
Absolutely, thank you.
I make a motion for staff to proceed as directed.
Motion made by Randy,
I'll second.
and it is seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? This is exciting, and I do think that we should be ready when we start getting questions to spin this in a very positive way. But we're gonna get inundated, so.
I always spin positive.
No, it's, because I can hear some people right now. This is exciting, especially coming downtown. Oh, next agenda item. Consideration with possible action on awarding a contract for the Legends District sidewalk construction contract to low responsive responsible bidder, Vinton Construction, in the amount of $941,751.19. Hello, Steve.
Good afternoon. It's been quite a while since I've had an opportunity to come and meet with the Redevelopment Authority, so it's nice to be back. Just wanted to identify we did provide a staff memo in your packet. Contract was let. We had one responsive bidder. It is Vinton Construction. We've had very good success with Vinton. Prices came in a little bit more than we had hoped for, but that is reflective of what current construction costs are at this time. So staff is making a recommendation to award to Vinton Construction as identified.
So move.
Second?
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Seems like
There
a
we go.
solid thing to do.
I know.
A cakewalk.
Number 3, consideration with possible action on a request to enter into a lease for a building at 724 Day Street to be funded through TID 21.
So, I don't come here often, but when I
Make yourself at home.
the rest of the meeting is Steve. So, with TID 21, Green Bay Packaging, the city of Green Bay currently owns a piece of property in the 2200 block in North Quincy. You're most familiar with that property if you're driving across the Leo Frigo Bridge and you see the water tower that has the Bay Beach logo on it. That's the property that we're talking about. Previous to the Green Bay Packaging project beginning, that was historically the location of our North Quincy East Side incinerator. So there was an incinerator building that ceased operation in 1975. And that property is part of the developer's agreement with Green Bay Packaging. That's going to be turned over at some point in the not too distant future to packaging for their needs. There were 4 buildings on that site that housed some cold storage for various departments, but the primary reason that that area was a concern is that is where the police evidence storage facility had been located. So one of the first homes that we had to find when we vacated 2200 North Quincy was a home for that evidence storage facility. That is currently on the former Badger sheet metal property of 420 South Broadway. We do have a developer that is interested in redeveloping that parcel, and before we can get that developer in there, we need to get ourselves back off. That was always intended to be a short-term, 3 to 5 years. We're definitely within that window.
So now they're going to the north side.
So now we're out looking for another place, especially for the police evidence storage. That's the most critical piece of the puzzle. So I have been in contact, working through the McDonald companies, and McDonald Companies has recently acquired 724 Day Street. That, if you're familiar, it's immediately north of the transit garage, and it's kind of a Quonset hut-looking building. 36,400 square feet. Negotiations, we've got them down to $4.30 a square foot, triple net, so the city is responsible for operating expenses, taxes, and insurance. We can definitely include that as part of our insurance, a building that we insure under our umbrella insurance for all city buildings as a tenant. We're anticipating, based on assessed valuation, taxes are going to come out to about $20,000 or give or take a year. So all in the first year, we're looking at somewhere between $165,000 to $175,000 all in. There is 2% per annum escalator clause, and we are looking for a 20-year lease. The length of that lease is one of the reasons we got the favorable terms that we did. By way of comparison, I had a conversation with Rhonda Bitney last week. I'm an engineer. I don't negotiate leases. I don't know property values. I just sort of do this for fun. Went through the property values with Rhonda. She identified that she had been looking at the former Bergstrom location on East Mason Street. That one is 24,000 square feet, and the lease rates that are being talked about over there are about $330,000 a year. So we have 50% more space, and we are roughly half, in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% of the rental rate. So we feel very comfortable with this. I'm anticipating that we are going to need another $50,000 in build-out costs. It is just a cavern. One of the biggest problems we have, there is an overhead door there, but it is a depressed loading dock situation, so we're going to have to bust the concrete out of that and make it level. So that's probably going to be one of the bigger expenses. This is within the half-mile boundary of TID 21, and it is directly related to our vacation of the 2200 North Quincy Street property. So we do consider this to be a TID-eligible relocation expense. It's a little different. Usually a TID doesn't pay the city, or something along that line. So it's just a more unique way of looking at TID financing to better the TID. So the alternative was we would not leave that 2200 North Quincy Street and go back there. So this does have a positive impact in the TID and allows that property to be more fully utilized and developed by Green Bay Packaging. Again, it's a 20-year lease. That gives us, the clock is still going to be ticking. We're not going to be able to hold that property forever, so somebody else is going to have to start looking at where the next evidence facility winds up being, because I'm not going to be here 20 years from now. But it does give us an appropriate time window to make those decisions, and that 20 years falls within the life of the TID. So we guarantee that TID payments for TID TID-eligible expenses are made, and we're not obligating the city beyond the life of the TID for a long-term rental, unless that becomes advantageous to the city down the line, but that's a discussion for another day. So we do feel this is a fantastic rate, and it places a significant police presence in a neighborhood that could use it, to be honest with you. So there's a lot of benefits to the community in addition to direct impact and benefit to the TID. So there's a lot of information to drop on you, but.
I have a question. So what if I won't be here in 20 years either, but let's say in 10 years, they decide to build in the police department that would have that evidence storage. Is there a way to get out of this?
There
if that's
is.
combined
It's
okay.
not in the draft lease, again, it's subject to editorial revision, but I have had conversations with the ownership group and indicated that what we would like to do is have a 1-year opt-out clause.
Yeah.
And it would be tied to a qualifying event such as, so we're not limited to, but we want to give them an example of what a qualifying event would be, such as the development of a replacement public service or law enforcement facility that would have these needs built
Right.
in. That event shall not occur within the first 5 years of the lease. And I feel they offer
Pretty safe on that one.
well, they suggested 3 to make them feel safer. I'm okay with 5. In the best event, if we had an agreement to move forward with the police building today, we're looking at a year for a space needs analysis. We need another year for, once we identify what the space needs are, we're looking at another year in property identification and acquisition. You're looking at 18 months worth of build-out. We're not even close to identifying that we want to go forward with it. So it's going to be 5 years from the time we sign that lease before we could possibly pull the trigger on a new police building. So I'm fine with offering them 5 years that, the first 5 years guaranteed, and then it's a 1-year opt-out at that point. And they're very happy with that.
Today's a unique day for
Right?
kids.
Yeah.
Definitely discovered that Steve's a better negotiator than Ron.
Any other question?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Randy and Debbie. All in favor?
Aye.
You can tell I'm not used to running
Oh, you're doing good, doing good.
this kind of a meeting, I'm more dialogue. Okay, let's see.
One last.
Number 4, the last agenda item. Consideration with possible action regarding contracting with Desmond Associates to complete the 2022 downtown parking study at an estimated cost of $36,270 using TID 13 funds. Whoa, another one.
Another.
I wish
This one's a little more normal, though.
I wish I could say this was a unique approach for TID,
Yeah,
but
this one's pretty,
Yeah.
back in 2013 was the last time we updated our downtown parking study. And because the core of downtown is centered on TID 13, TID 13 was the funding mechanism we used to complete that study back then. Things have changed significantly since 2013 with the makeup of the downtown area, and we are desperately in need of updating that parking study, as was alluded to several times within this meeting already, talking with potential tenants and employees in the downtown area. Parking is an issue that we do struggle with, so we need to make sure that we have adequately located and available parking within the downtown to allow the downtown to continue to grow and develop. Additionally, one of the things that has come up recently, I don't know if who's been on RDA long enough to have been part of the discussions and negotiations with Schreiber Foods for the development of their home office and global technology center, but one of the conditions of that developer's agreement identifies that within 20 years of the beginning of that agreement, which was August of 2011, the Main Street ramp has to go away. So that's 2031. We're already into 2022. That 2031 deadline is moving very, very quickly. Additionally, we have been My staff continues to do annual maintenance programming to keep those ramps in good repair, to make sure that they last. And knowing that we only have 9 years of life left into that ramp, and we're starting to take a look at how much money we're putting into annual programming there, I'm spending between $350,000 and $500,000 a year in maintenance work on that ramp for a ramp that's going to come down in 9 years. That's not good investment any longer. So we have made a recommendation to the mayor that probably within the next 3 years, that ramp's going to be and taken out of service. That ramp is almost the geographic center of TID 13. So utilizing TID 13 funds to look at parking in the downtown area, I think is a wise investment, and this is going to help us look. Study area is, generally speaking, Kellogg or so on the north boundary up to the East River here on the east side, so Kellogg on the west side, East River on the east side, Monroe Avenue as an eastern boundary, Mason Street as a southern boundary, and Ashland Avenue as a western boundary. So it does encapsulate both the on Broadway and downtown Green Bay. And we will look a little bit, peripheral to that as well, to try to take into account impacts that may be occurring with the former Associated Bank parking lot and things of that nature. With this study, what's going to happen is the consultant will come in, they'll meet with our staff, but they also will engage a core group of stakeholders in the downtown. Typically, they'll talk to about 20 people or so. So they'll have staff and the executive directors from both of the BIDs. Last time we had property owners, business owners, things of that nature. So we had Associated Bank, Schreiber, Nicolay National Bank, Commercial Horizons, folks who've got some skin in the game here in the downtown area, so we can get their focus or their feedback as well. So it is a pretty comprehensive study. We expect it to go about 3 to 4 months with the actual work and the development of the study. Bring that study back, and staff will be responsible for the implementation on what's ultimately adopted. So, any questions?
Did you get any other proposals?
We did. We had another proposal from Walker Consultants. Walker's came back about $75,000. The decision was not made on price. Price may or may not have been a consideration, but there was a scoring matrix that was put together by staff to put this together. Desmond was the consultant who did the 2013.
That was going to be my follow-up question.
So,
And we were happy with the work
We're
they had
very
done
happy with it.
before? Perfect.
Walkers too.
And when you talk about a downtown parking study, it's both sides.
Correct.
Awesome. And in order for us to continue with redevelopment, that would only make sense, wouldn't it?
Yes,
So
again,
as we
have
make
to,
decisions more. moving
we
forward.
have to make sure that there is availability and appropriate location for the parking.
What happens to the conference center parking? When that comes down,
That's one of the things.
That's on the list, yeah.
Going to the study.
Where
Yeah.
currently, if things were to stay static at 2022 levels, with, I can't remember what they were called under their last iteration, APAC,
oh,
the call
Yes.
center that was in the Bay Lake City Center building. When they moved their operations out of there, that was about 700 stalls that they freed up. So we've got capacity right now in the Pine Street ramp. Main Street is 681 stalls. Cherry is 800. Pine is 1,843. So we currently have capacity for the KI Convention Center in Pine, but as we continue to develop and grow the downtown, we're going to need more and more parking. And with the revisions to the ordinances for off-street parking, we no longer require the volume of off-street parking native to a building that we once did. So apartments come downtown and we build out apartment buildings in the downtown area, they don't necessarily have to have all the parking that they need for those residents or tenants. Commercial development, if somebody comes and moves into Watermark, there isn't a requirement for them to provide all that parking right there at Watermark. They can depend on the market to satisfy that parking need, so that falls back upon the parking division.
I'm just curious why Schreiber, why the desire to have it removed? Was it, I mean, are they using it as parking?
They were back in 2011, it was anticipated for future expansion of that building. So I did go back and consult with SFI to see if, even during the pandemic, had the nature of their business changed to the point that they did not anticipate the need for that property in the future, and could we at least push that date back? And the response I got was, no, the agreement called for 2031, we're holding to
Interesting.
that. So they may have something that they're contemplating that we
So
don't
they
know
still have a
about.
parking need as well?
Well, they're parking with us.
Right. So I mean, they need that parking. They need some
Somewhere.
parking.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need
Somewhere.
parking somewhere.
Somewhere.
Now, that property, given its zoning, would not be applicable for a parking lot.
A surface lot, right?
Right.
Yeah, service lot,
Yeah.
I don't see DPW and the zoning department authorizing a surface lot there in the future.
They want to give us a nice building on top
Yeah,
of it,
there you go.
we can talk.
There you go.
That's right. Happy
Brian,
to
did
chat,
you-
yeah.
Yeah, but,
Oh, I have to open the floor?
no, I got a question.
Oh, okay, because I saw Brian has hand.
Oh, I didn't see.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just-
Where's Brian? You talked on for the west side, it'd be Kellogg, but you did say, you did it peripherally a little bit, so I'm hoping the north side, hopefully can be getting a lot more significant development out there. We can take a peripheral view for, okay.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Generally, okay.
We can move that boundary.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of the same question, because I think when I saw an early report on this, they were only going to about the school district building. But will extend to the shipyard area, because you've got three major proposals down there.
Yes, we could definitely anticipate the shipyard. I don't know that we would necessarily want to hold at Ashland Avenue and come all the way down to, say, 3rd or 4th. Because now we're starting to get into residential and park needs.
Right.
But we don't have a nice neat rectangle to put that little cutout and come down to shipyard. Likewise, following with Randy's comment, to hold a block off of Broadway and go all the way up to Mather may make some sense as well, but not to include the residential.
Right,
So there's flexibility. It's not-
Absolutely.
Because I just, again, I think about the shipyard and merge and impact 7 if that happens, right? Like that's
Right.
a lot of
Right.
dense development in that area.
Yep.
And I think that's, the parking study and approving it, we want to understand, how that parking is all going to work. And if there's anything else that needs to be done, because to me, Mather is that gateway into downtown, at least from the highway, it's easiest.
I think certainly we've had a couple conversations with Steve on, when we are seeing some of these sites redeveloped, they want to lease spaces from Steve. So in terms of looking at that and figuring out, okay, right now, in terms of kind of end of pandemic conditions, like I said, Steve's got capacity, we can do that. But we gotta be careful with that, we don't want to take up too many, and to get too many secured, all of a sudden we start getting, we don't have enough just public access spaces. So I think that's something we're definitely gonna want to hopefully kind of pitch the consultant on too, is what's the appropriate balance, what should we be doing? Because it's, it's one thing it's great maybe from a short-term revenue standpoint, but to have that secured, we want to make sure we've got, if that's going to take up too much capacity 10 years from now, we don't want to be selling ourselves short as we're trying to figure out where to do that. And certainly, I think in terms of, related to the KI Center, obviously tying this into what happens on the WPS site, as they might be taking a look at where we might do a new one, that might be a spot we want to look at, in terms of, what would make the most sense. I mean, I think, Steve, if we look at it, if we're going to look at a new one, we're looking at 1,000 just from an efficiency standpoint, we need to, we're
Probably
building bigger,
we're
aren't we?
looking at something in the neighborhood of 1,200 at a minimum.
Yeah, just from an efficiency standpoint,
Right.
right? I mean, it's the point, 'cause especially with construction costs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got a little beeper noise they think.
Find where your car's actually.
Pretty soon they're gonna make a car, you just push the button and the car comes to you.
Oh, God, that'd be nice.
Well,
Oh,
you
that's
said
our-
1,200
that's
is
actually already there.
What, Pine?
What's that?
Is that what Pine Street's ran? Did you say?
Pine is
it was?
1,843.
Okay.
Close enough to 2,000. I think you can run that one. Any other questions?
No, motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Randy.
Second.
Second by Melanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, informational, director's report.
We got several things for you. I'll just give you a quick update before we get you out of here. One of the things that Shelley, we could probably share with it, MF Partners, as you know, you guys have been a project we've been dealing with on and off with this group here.
East Walnut.
East Walnut Street. So apparently, they had just, I think last we heard, they were 1 point short on scoring the minimum for their WIDA tax credits. Yes, Debbie's like, so they were just right on the cusp. It's been about a month now. I guess we actually had the new director, the new WIDA director in town, and actually took him on a tour of the city. Actually stopped out on Broadway with Brian and toured the market as well. And it was, a really, really great visit. We're not going to say that it caused this to happen, but we certainly don't think it hurt. They got an announcement that someone must have fallen off the list, and they have been awarded the 9% tax credits. So we're excited to hear that moving
Yeah,
forward.
that's
So-
awesome.
Yeah, so that's great news. So we're probably going to need this. I think staff was trying to set up another meeting with them to kind of get that kick-started back going again. So they were obviously kind of trying to get a little creative where they're going to go. Well, now we still want to keep some of those cool creative elements that they thought of, but hopefully now it's going to actually come in and be able to move faster because they were awarded their tax credits. So we were excited to hear that. We are actually going to be attending, several staff's going to be attending the WIDA conference here tomorrow and Thursday, so down in Madison. So we'll be kind of getting more of the story and exactly how that happened as we go forward. Obviously, the RDA has the arts requirement that we require all of our TIF projects to go through. The most recent one we worked on was the Carnivore Industrial Park project. We are currently kind of working through them. They had some different ideas in terms of maybe wanting to do something a little different on that. We're working with them in terms of trying to negotiate something on that specifically, saying that as long as we come to an agreement, that's fine. Otherwise, if they don't have it by a certain date, then it just defaults back to what the original RDA requirement is going to be. We think their attorneys have been maybe driving the bus a little bit, trying to show some value. So we're actually setting up a meeting with Lanny, the CEO, to talk with him directly about how to get that best and meet, to remind him of what the intent behind it was, that requirement, and see if there's a good way to keep that moving forward. But so just so you know that staff is still keeping that. That is always something that comes up in negotiations on these development agreements. And for the most part, I think it is very supported when we actually get them. We would love to find the one who just says, you know what, we've got other things we want to deal too. How about we just write you guys a check? That hasn't happened yet. But most of the time, the folks are still making those investments in their projects as they go forward. We've mentioned both Merge and Impact 7. We are actually in the process of updating Merge's development agreement for the shipyard site. They think they have come to a strategy, essentially how to move forward to deal with the soils issues on site. So I think essentially what they're going to do, they're going to reverse the order of the buildings they were going to do to give the one site a little bit more time to settle. So, but the good news is that means they can get started on the other one. So we're excited to hopefully be bringing that back for an update here either in October, hopefully in October. I think we're going to be able to get something moving forward there. As well as Impact 7, we're already kind of wanting to kind of get them going. They've had some personnel changes and some things happen on their site, so we're looking to get a meeting together. But now that Steve's actually got an option before, now we're really interested in sitting down with them and trying to finalize something with them. So we're hopefully going to be bringing something back for them, hopefully in October or November, have something with us. So it'd be nice to have both of those kind of wrapped up and kind of restarted again by the end of the year. Would be a huge win, I think, for the city. We did have, just yesterday, participated in a, Brown County actually hosted a kind of an economic development projects tour with several developers from all over the area. So we participated in that, showed off several sites. So it was a nice, real nice event. Got leased a bus. It was a full bus load of folks. So we actually went from 8 to noon. So we toured all kinds of sites, really all throughout the greater Green Bay area. But I got to show, I think we had 7 sites that we talked about. specifically here within the city. So that was a nice partnership and kind of a nice way to show off a little bit some of the things going on in the city. So we're appreciative to them for that. Did just receive, Matt Buchanan has informed me that the next round of EPA brownfield grants is open, and is open a little bit earlier than we thought, which is good, because we've got most of our money is out and committed at this point, so we kind of need to get in for next round. Apparently I think if Matt read it right, they've changed it so there's not a match requirement this time around. So for the actual cleanup projects, so if you qualify, there's actually not a match requirement, so it's gonna make it even more competitive, probably. Folks will really be interested.
You need lighters.
For the Impact 7 site, that absolutely was the first one we thought of immediately, to try to get that one in position for that one as they move forward going into spring. So more information to come on that, but it sounds like could be making that project probably more accessible and bigger impact, but probably more competitive, that'd be our guess, if they're loosening up those projects. So couple updates we'll be having at the next meeting. Diana will probably provide her update on where we're at on bonding. I know Gary has been kind of requesting that, so we're going to have that at the next meeting. The other thing, obviously, that has just happened most recently is everyone got their revaluation notices. So we're kind of evaluating exactly why we bring that up here is that we are trying to figure out exactly what the impacts to our TIF districts are going to be on some of those. In terms of what the value is and what the ultimate mill rate ends up being. Actually, this is kind of going to change, could have significant impacts on a couple of our districts. We think, as a general rule, I think if Diana was still here, I'd have her confirm this, but I think she said residential was in the 20 to 30% range, I think, in terms of changes, often increasing. Commercial was only in the 10 to 15% range. So it didn't quite change as much as some of the other uses did in terms of what. So that is thought to have some impacts on our commercial properties then. I think one thing we did notice, I think for example, I think the Hotel Northland went from 18 million down to 10 million in value.
Ooh.
Yeah, so ouch.
Wow.
And in terms of, and when we have obviously minimum requirements and things for that TIF district, that causes some heartburn. So we're going to be needing to revisit some of those TIFs possibly on that one. So.
Oh, I thought everything went up.
So no, we've had some commercial properties. We've had it depends on where they are. We've had some commercial ones actually
So was
go the other
that
way.
like over-evaluated at one time then, or?
I think it was probably a combination of things, Alder Scale, probably a little bit overvalued in the beginning. I think obviously looking at an income approach, they're probably still not back to really where they are from a lease standpoint. So it's probably multiple factors that are contributing to that. But it's again, we're still kind of going through and identifying those specific spots and trying to evaluate what if we can really do that. So my guess is it was probably a case of being overvalued in the beginning.
By almost 50%.
It's hard to find a comparable project to that one. I will grant I'm not an assessor by any stretch of the imagination. It's hard to find a comparable for that particular kind of property. So they probably based it on on construction costs, and then when their income didn't probably come in nearly as what they thought it had been. It's within the realm of possibility, let's put it that way, but it is a substantial change.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so that's obviously a substantial change. We're still kind of evaluating what we think the impacts on other areas are going to be. So we'll probably ask her to see if there's an update we can give related to that too, in terms of what the evaluation of the districts has done with that new valuation going in. I think with that, I think those were my main updates. If anybody has any questions, happy to talk about them if you had any others.
Okay, our next meeting is October 11th, 2022. A couple weeks from now.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
And-
Let's do it again sometime.